the things I've done for your entertainment over the years. I'm not going to tell you if I washed my hair in my own wee this morning, though. There is a faint aroma. Ever since I had those incredible summers out at Grandpa's cabin in the woods, I've dreamed of this, living in a cabin myself. And the next person I'm going to introduce you to is living just that lifestyle. One of my favourites, if I'm to be honest, people I've met on New Lives in the Wild. A remarkable man called Robert Runyon. Robert Runyon, like many of the wild folk I've met, had dropped out of society in the 60s. He'd become a bit of a hippie, he'd smoked a bit too much weed, and he ended up in the forests of Arkansas, where he bought a little plot of land for very little, no one else wanted to move there, and he built himself a very basic little cabin. And over the next few decades, he taught himself how to build beautiful cabins. And so good did he become at his craft that not only was he declared a national treasure of Arkansas for his skills, but he was able to make a very good living by building cabins for other people. Incidentally, of all those people who've gone to live off-grid, 2 perhaps of the 120 have been able to drop off the financial grid. It's almost impossible wherever you are in the world to live completely without money. There is always some sort of tax, some sort of money or something that you need in order to be able to live a life. And that's how he was able to sustain himself. But when I caught up with Robert, it was at a crossroads in his life. Because even when you live off-grid in the wild, and you don't have a permanent job as such, retirement is a thing. Because the very nature of off-grid living means that it's a very physical lifestyle. Chopping wood, harvesting the crops, planting the crops, enduring extreme weathers. A lot of these locations are geographically difficult to live in. And there is a point at which many of those people I've met have to make a real decision about how long they can sustain this off-grid life, particularly when, like Robert, you live alone. He, in his all his work building cabins for other people, he'd failed to complete his cabin. And the realization suddenly that just at that point, when he had to think about slowing down, he had a huge amount of work ahead of him. Fortunately, I'm able to help as much as I can during my week or 10 days that I'm with each of these people. The crew help out as well. Often we're the first kind of physical labour that they can actually use to help them with chores that they haven't been able to do. But when it was time to say goodbye to Robert, the house was still incomplete. He was unsure about what lay in his future. And it meant that the goodbye, in Robert's case, was particularly poignant.
Well, again.